Okay, what's going on, guys? We're back with another MMA related video. If you're new here and you like the content, subscribe and like this video would be greatly appreciated. Okay, today we're going to talk about judging. If you're an MMA fan, I'm sure as of late and even before this, you've heard the name Douglas Crosby, and we're going to get to him. But almost every MMA fan has a problem with the way judging gets done. I don't like a lot of the solutions that people throw out there, and I have reasons for that. The most popular ones, such as open scoring and more judges, I don't think are necessary at all. I think 3 judges is enough. I think they just need to be competent. I don't think you don't need to make the bureaucracy of the athletic commission any bigger than it already is. You'd just be giving more jobs to incompetent people. Open scoring sounds good in theory, but if you've paid attention to other combat sports, you'd realize it doesn't make much of a difference. For instance, I'm a big fan of Glory Kickboxing. They have open scoring and Glory. It's you just get your frustration out at a different time. You know, you're watching the fight and then you're like, how the fuck did that idiot score that round for so and so? And instead of being upset after the fight, you're upset during the fight. And then I don't like it because it changes the way that the fighter fights. And I don't think that that's fair. I also don't like the comments that Dana White made about not leaving it in the hands of the judges. That is such a bullshit cop-out that fighters should not have to worry about the competency of a judge. They shouldn't. They shouldn't have to go out there and risk getting knocked out to get the knockout or submission because the judges are not competent at their job. I have mainly one big solution. Obviously, there's qualifications that they should have. Knowledge. I mean, the bar is not set very high. If you are a fan of MMA and you pay attention to all aspects, you could competently judge a fight. They should have 0 ethics violations, meaning they can't be friends or family or friends of fighters. And I know that would be difficult because athletic commissions need to, I guess, coordinate and, talk with, other people in the sport. But there should be no conflicts of interest ever. One solution that I think might help, it would make more fights end in draws, which I actually don't think is a totally bad thing. Either 10-10 or 10-9s, or 10-10s or 9-9s should be scored without a point deduction. The 10-9 system is fine. It's the 10-point must that I view as the problem. Because you have judges like Chris Lee who, when defending their scorecard from the Paddy Pimblett Jared Gordon fight, they'll say, well, in round 3, they gave me nothing to score, so I scored it to Paddy. Did you flip a coin? How did you come to that conclusion? That round was pretty close. But why, when in doubt, score it? How do you then decide who you're scoring it for? Because if that's the case, you're not really scoring the fight. You're just flipping a coin and ruining one fighter's pay for the night and potentially their career. 10-10s or 9-9s should absolutely be normalized. You can have a round that ends in a draw. Another solution, or the main one, in my opinion, judges should not be cage side. I don't even think they should be in the arena. All 3 judges should have a separate quiet room with a TV made available to them, or monitor, whatever, to watch the fights on. As a viewer at home, you get all the best angles. There's zero obstruction from the cage. Very, very, very rarely do you have like a referee get in the way of our view, because there are so many cameras capturing so many different angles that they just automatically go to the best one. They would be able to see everything. They wouldn't be able to talk to each other, so that if one guy doesn't know what he's doing, we will find out immediately because he will be secluded and isolated. Also, the crowd reactions swaying judges' opinions are absolutely a real thing. During the Paddy Pimblett Jared Gordon fight, there were a few flurries that Paddy Pimblett did, right? Went after Jared Gordon a few times. Mainly, the one I'm thinking of is at the end of the second round. If you've got a bad angle to that, and you're hearing the crowd's reaction, you would think that all of those punches landed, when in reality, maybe 1 of 10 actually landed. Jared Gordon blocked most of them off the arms, was able to slip out of the way of a lot of them. The crowd absolutely can sway the judges' perception of a fight, and their angle can change the perception of a fight. If you have 3 judges, there's only so much area they can cover, right? And if you have a fighter like Khamzat Chimaev or a lot of other wrestlers or grapplers who, when they get an opponent down, they like to take them down in front of their corner. Well, what if you're the judge on the other side of the octagon and you don't have a good view of that, right? You can't see any maybe submission attempts on a certain side. You wouldn't be able to see certain strikes being landed. I mean, honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I understand that, like, probably one of the benefits of being a judge is that you get to sit cage side at all the best fucking fights, but that's too goddamn bad. You can like your job, but the main priority of your job shouldn't be fun. Right? These fighters' careers are in your hands. And in a case like Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon, you've taken away a massive moment from a fighter's career who worked his ass off for that win, who should have been given the biggest win of his career, and who knows what the UFC would be doing with Jared Gordon after a win over Paddy Pimblett. They could submit their scorecards electronically. They don't have to be there in person. They need to be in separate quiet rooms with TVs. Done. No ifs, ands, or buts. That would change a lot. I think it would change a lot, especially compared to like open scoring doesn't change anything. You just find out the result early, and you're just mad about it earlier. Fighters should not have to be concerned with this. If they've won a round, they should not have to be like, fuck, did I win? Like, they shouldn't even be thinking about banking rounds. They should be going out there and executing their game plan. Judges should be competent enough to know who won. Secondly, I think boycotts need to be normalized. I know fighters aren't a real fucking, like, kumbaya, all fucking hold hands together and do shit kind of bunch, but with some things you've got to be in alignment, and this affects everyone. You know, they should absolutely boycott judges. Now we're going to get to Douglas Crosby. This is clearly like some form of either nepotism or favoritism, or somebody owing someone favors, or worst case scenario, blackmail or something. You know, how does this guy continue to get jobs? There should be an investigation opened after any sus scorecard. And about 2 years ago, there was a fighter named AJ Agazarm who openly, at a press conference, and like unironically, this is pretty brave, spoke out about Doug Crosby. He said, I know him. My opponent knows him. I've had relations with him for years. He's helped me fill out paperwork for jiu-jitsu tournaments. He's even helped me with my contract at Bellator. That man should never judge a fight. Ever. If he's helping fighters with their contracts, that means he's directly involved with the organizations themselves when he's not supposed to be. The Athletic Commission is supposed to be a separate entity. Like, this is how things are supposed to work. Checks and balances, right? The UFC and Bellator can't just pick who they want to win. An Athletic Commission, given the scoring criteria, picks who won. You can't have people with those kinds of relationships. And I understand that it's going to be like difficult at times, when, especially when you have a guy like fucking Big John McCarthy, right, calling out his son, who also judged the Paddy Pimblett fight. Big John McCarthy, obviously, referee, been around forever, helped write the scoring criteria and the rule set. Probably got his son that job. However, Big John didn't become involved in the organization until after he had retired reffing. Like, you know, he commentates with Bellator and whatever. You cannot be performing manager, fucking managerial, whatever, duties as a fucking judge. Like, how is this allowed? And how is it that after AJ Agazarm puts his career at risk by even bringing this up, like, how is there no investigation done after that? That was 2 years ago, people. That's fucking insane. This guy continued to judge fights for 2 years after getting called out directly by a fighter on an ethics violation. Then he goes on to do Stotts versus Sabatello, which is just fucking nuts, dude. I can't fathom how somebody could give a 50-45 to a losing fighter. And then less than 24 hours later, he flies between states. I don't know exactly what, California to Vegas. I don't know exactly how far that is, but it's not the point. To go judge in the UFC. Why is he getting jobs like all over the fucking place, right? You're supposed to be if you're involved in the New York State Athletic Commission, why are you flying to Vegas to go do? If you're involved in, like, why are you all over the place? If you're from New York and you work for the New York State Athletic Commission, stay the fuck there. So that at least we can isolate the bad judging into certain areas. Yeah, I can't. This guy is an absolute piece of shit. His license should have been revoked years ago. If they don't revoke it now, we know that he's got some fucking blackmail on someone. I think, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, let's get a bit more creative with his punishment. I don't think he should be not allowed to judge fights. I think his next assignment should be possibly Paddy Pimblett versus Renato Moicano in Brazil. Wow. Then we risk Moicano finishing him, and then we don't get Douglas Crosby's scorecard. But I think he should have to go judge in Brazil and give a controversial scorecard against a Brazilian fighter. See if he manages to leave the country. No, but in all seriousness, there's no way he should ever judge a fight ever again. He's like the male Adelaide Bird at this point, and in my opinion, worse. And it feeds in to like conspiracy-minded people who think that the UFC is rigging fights. I don't think that they are. And I don't think that Ariel's opinion on what happened, well, like the judges pick who they think the promoter wants. So, like, what the fuck is that? You're going to risk, like, your livelihood and quite possibly jail time so that you might get into Dana White's good graces. Like, I'm not quite understanding this. But this Doug Crosby shit goes deep. I was listening to the Anik and Florian podcast on Monday, and goddamn, thank God for Ray Longo. He came in and went hard, and I know that him and his team have had issues with Doug Crosby. I haven't had time to look into those yet, but I am quite interested. It seems like the more you dig, the deeper Steve's hole gets. And it's just fucking mental, man. It's ruining the sport. Like, absolutely ruining the sport. Yeah. I really hope that they're able to do something about that. This guy's ruining people's fucking careers. Meanwhile, continuing to get jobs. Like, it's fucking nuts, dude. It actually makes me mad. I don't have much more to say at this point. I think that, just to reiterate, because otherwise I'm just going to start swearing about Doug Crosby, because it makes me fucking angry, dude. Open scoring and more judges are not the solution. You just get mad at a different time. And yeah, it's not the solution, man. Secluded, isolated, each in their own separate quiet rooms, watching on a TV or a monitor, with no commentary whatsoever. They need to create a version that has no commentary, because I think that they do need to be able to hear the impact of a strike. This is why I was watching a Jesse on Fire video. He was, why can't they score MMA like they score jiu-jitsu? Well, because there are way too many fucking aspects. It would take a very long time to come up with a comprehensive point system for scoring, and then I guess you could just adopt jiu-jitsus and wrestlings on their own. But like, the problem is I just don't understand how you assign like a point value to a certain strike. How? Not all left hooks are created equal. And then if you go and say, the more damaging one, well, that's subjective, right? So, for instance, in like the Magomed Ankalaev fight, I totally agree with the 10-8 round. At the end of round 5, I had it a draw at the end of the fight. However, the amount of damage that Jan Blachowicz did in total is fucking nuts. Like, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, somebody else may view it differently. In the first round, he swolled up his fucking eye, Ankalaev's eye, with a big left hook to the temple, swole up all around in this area, little cut, chewed up his leg. Ankalaev's best weapon that round, as DC kept saying and many others, were the teeps to the body. The problem with that is, maybe he threw 10 good teeps to the body. Jan Blachowicz landed like 3 or 4 massive round body kicks. And at the beginning of round 2, when they panned the camera to Ankalaev and then Jan Blachowicz, right before they were about to start fighting again, Ankalaev had a massive red mark on his stomach, whereas Jan Blachowicz did not. So if I'm looking at damage, like, that's how I'm looking at it. They're both relatively the same level of fucking Casper the Ghost. So I don't think that the skin tone or the complexion is making that much of a difference there. But there are certain things too where, like, surface level damage looks worse, right? Like cuts and scrapes and shit like that. Meanwhile, you could have a guy like Jan Blachowicz, who just ruins people's ability to use their legs. And in my opinion, that's more damaging than a cut over the eye. In my opinion, Paddy Pimblett limping out of the fucking cage with a broken hand as well because he doesn't know how to fucking punch properly. That's more damage done than a few cuts over Jared Gordon's face, right? I don't think we need a new point system. I think that instead of it being a 10-point must, it needs to be like 10-point must, except in the case of a round too close to score. Because you have, again, like I said at the beginning of this video, Chris Lee. They gave me nothing to score, so I scored it to Paddy. Why? You can't just flip a coin like that. 10-10 or 9-9. Done. That round's a draw. That needs to be normalized. I don't understand it. But yeah, secluded, isolated, separate rooms. Can't communicate with one another. Watch it on a monitor with the exact view that we get at home, with zero commentary and zero crowd persuasion. I think that would fix a lot of it. And it's not that hard to become knowledgeable on the sport. Fighters judging is also another horrible idea. I've heard a lot of people say this. Well, why don't fighters judge? Because that's fucking dumb. First of all, if you got a problem with the fucking ethical violations of Douglas Crosby, like, imagine the kinds of ethics violations we would have with fighters judging one another. They all know each other. There's all biases. They all have biases, pardon me. That is not a good idea. Even retired fighters, they're going to have relationships with certain fighters. They're going to favor certain ones over. They're going to, in Michael Bisping's case, heavily favors striking as opposed to grappling, whereas you then have someone like Daniel Cormier who's like looking for clinch work in wrestling, right? They all have their biases. You can have people that aren't fighters learn the sport and score a fight correctly. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Jared Gordon won that fucking fight. Okay? So, these are just my thoughts. Again, if you thought this video was insightful or you liked it in any way, please subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. Peace out.